Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see. We'll let people get settled. All right, so for this workshop, I would like to make it clear that my name is not Esperanza. So my friend, our friend, Esperanza Jean, was ready and prepared to deliver her workshop today, but circumstances related to health prohibit her from being here. So we carry her presence with us in spirit and through what we do plan to offer for y'all today. And before we begin the workshop portion of things, there are a couple things I would like to highlight. The first is if you look on the walls opposite the room, you'll see some artwork hanging up here. And this is a series called The Hands of God by Rebekah Schultz, who is here with us from Duke Divinity School. Rebekah is a young printmaking artist and theologian studying the intersection of theology and the arts at Duke Divinity School. She often reflects on the community she is in and explores art as worship, prayer, protest, lament, and joy. Her art has been published by Artist Literacies Institute and commissioned by L'Arche, North Carolina. Thank you so much for your artwork, Rebekah. And as we engage in this workshop, which will have a lot to do with taking in from our senses, I do invite you to bring in the art into your reflections as well. And Rebekah, I also invite you to speak and integrate your art and your insights as well. And the other integration before we begin is a book that is coming out by our very own professor here. If you wouldn't mind coming up, I'm sure you could explain better than I the wonders of. It's already out. We love that. Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that this text is now available for you. So it's called Disability Ethics and Preferential Justice, a Catholic Perspective. It is the result of work that I had done for my STL degree. And I'm happy that I was able to market it into a book. Professor Watts-Belzer referenced it at the start of her presentation, and she's got a blurb here on the back for me, along with Heike Peckrun, another one of the disability peeps that I call dear friends. We have all come to know each other through the American Academy of Religion and the Society of Biblical Literature sections on disability. So I was a member, an inaugural member of the Committee of the Status of Persons with Disability in the profession, and was in the pre-organization of that status committee happening. So I'm very proud to have been someone who contributed to the Academy's recognition of persons with disability in the Academy, as well as persons with disability throughout the world, for whom we all advocate, regardless of our own status of disability or lack thereof. So I'll just read my little intro to what this text is on the back of the book. I'll get to that after. Persons with disability make up at least 15%, it's really 20, of the global population. Yet disability is widely unacknowledged and unexplored in theology. Too few people without immediate experience of persons with disability remain unconcerned with this largest and most diverse minority of people across the globe. Disability ethics and preferential justice is a response to the dearth of theo-ethical reflection on disability, arguing that justice requires a preferential safeguard for persons and communities of people with disability. I introduce the basics of disability realities for those who have not recognized their absence in their common human activities. I use reflection on the Imago Dei as foundation for the theological lens within disability ethics, and I expose personal and systemic forms of control that the able-bodied people, knowingly or not, exercise to maintain power over people with disability. I offer strategies based on Catholic social teaching to inspire people with disability, and I offer deliberate action with an increasingly inclusive and participatory church and society. I invite readers to think about their responses to matters of disability inclusion across the common spaces to which all of us should have access. The cover art. The cover art is titled, what is the title of this cover art? It's called Psalm 85, and it is composed by John August Swanson of happy memory. John died early last year. A very fine man with disability, not of a physical sort necessarily, but a man with great imagination and an amazing hand with art. So it is available, Georgetown University Press. If you decide to get a copy of it, you could send a note to me telling me what you thought of it after you've read it. That'd be really great. But thank you again. Thank you for the time.
Right. Okay, so this afternoon, I am sitting in the irony of this moment because Robert and I had originally thought about doing a workshop together, and now here we are doing a workshop. And I will say this, we are leaning into the unpreparedness of this moment, but also I want to say that we both have a lot to offer from our perspectives and lived experiences. And what we want to share today are some poems that mean a lot to us and will facilitate, hopefully, a journey through grief into celebration. And so, Robert, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit.
Yeah, well, hello again, Robert Monson, co-director of And Fleshed and graduate of United Theological. Yeah, so we're gonna have some poems and some guided time together briefly, especially as it relates to disability and being in our bodies. And just for a moment, I just want to do a breathing exercise, especially after lunch, you know. The lunch is lunching, the tired is tiring. So let's just take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you're able to. Exhale. And I want to ask this question, and feel free to deep breathe as much as you need to. Who loves you? Is the prompt. So breathe in very deep and consider the question, who loves you? What images come to your mind? What faces come to your mind? I want to ask one other question. Just as you're in this place, is whom comes to your mind when you think of joy and peace? Like what memory comes to mind? What person comes to mind? Go ahead and breathe in that memory, that person's essence very deeply, and exhale. Ashe. Who loves you? It's a good meditation. So do you want to explain how we're going to do things?
Yes. All right. So if you're not familiar with Resma Minikin's work, he does a lot around like moving trauma through your body. And one of his frameworks is called Vimbasi. And this is a framework for self-reflection. After I explain a little bit of it, we can keep coming back to it too with more explanations because it does take some time. But yes, so up here I have written what Vimbasi stands for. V is for vibes and vibrations. And so all of these, first thing I'll say is like all these are different ways of knowing that are sometimes not acknowledged in theological academic spaces. But these are ways that our bodies facilitate knowing for us. And so often vibes and vibrations come before words or images. So vibes, vibrations, images and thoughts, meaning making, which can sometimes be more complicated, behaviors, urges, affect and feelings, sensations, imagination. So as we read these poems, take some time to process what you're feeling and like embrace the fact that sometimes you're not going to have the words first. Sometimes you have the sensation. Sometimes you have a feeling. Sometimes you have an urge to do something, and really sit and interrogate what those things are for you, what images and thoughts come to mind. And as you do so, I invite you to take some markers and some paper. If you brought your own writing materials, that's fine too. But it's all laid out for you over here for you to pick. And we will provide a lot of space between for this processing. Probably for some, an uncomfortable amount of space. But when you do somatic work, you kind of have to be able to sit with that discomfort and give yourself the time to listen to your body. And after some time of listening and writing and reflecting, we will invite some time to share reflections as well. All right.
Yeah, go ahead and get it.
Go ahead, y'all, partake.
Awesome. So if you have your things, you can go ahead and take your seat. We'll just wait another minute. So I'm going to read the poems, and then Rose is going to guide us into activity. So this first one is Lucille Clifton, Mother Clifton. It's called For the Lord. She writes, people say they have a hard time understanding how I go on about my business, playing my Ray Charles, hollering at the kids, seem like my afro cut off in some old image, would show I got a long memory, and I come from a line of Black and going on women who got used to making it through murdered sons and who grief kept on pushing who fried chicken ironed, swept off the back steps, who grief kept for their still alive sons, for their sons coming, for their sons gone, just pushing.
So as you take some time to sit with your reactions from your body, I'm not going to dictate what that looks like for you, but feel free to record images, words, sounds, meanings, behaviors, feelings, urges, and we'll give you the time to do that. I want to bring a question into the space as you reflect. What did the generations before you teach you about how to hold grief in your body?
And even as you are in that place, if drawing is not something that you desire to do or can do, it's possible for you to record an audio or to share with someone, both here and on the stream. I just want to acknowledge that some people drawing is not accessible in certain ways, and so however you need to process this exercise, we want to invite you to do that.
So question one more time is, what did the generations before you teach you about how to hold grief in your body? Feel free to continue to reflect, but I want to open the floor for reflections. If you want to pass the mic around.
Does anyone have anything they would like to reflect out loud for us?
I'll be brave. This is Dr. Edwards, for those of you online. I thought immediately of like tree roots, dark, dank, messy. And for my family, I think a lot of that is really hidden.
Mm.
It's not there, but it's really covered over. And I don't have more intellect to put behind that, but the image and the feeling of like dirt and roots and depth for me is quite evocative when I listen to Rose's question.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to reflect on this in histories? Yes, sir.
Hi, excuse me. For those of you on stream, my name is Dan Lapidus. The answer to the question of how did previous generations teach me to hold grief is that they didn't. They taught me to ignore it, to soldier on. There was no space for the messy human emotions. But emotions unexpressed don't go unchanneled. They found their way out of the people who were holding them in other ways. I learned that hurt people, not by learning that phrase, but by watching people do it.
Dan, can I invite just another pause for people to settle with what you've just shared?
Yes.
Because I feel like we should process that a little bit. And then you can just give us a little pause and I'll invite you to continue. All right.
Actually, that really was sort of all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Dan. You're welcome to sit with those reflections that you're continuing to scribe, and Robert's going to read the next poem for us. Whichever one you want.
Okay. This next one is called New Bones. Also, Lucille Clifton. We are fans of Lucille Clifton. So we will wear new bones again. We will leave these rainy days, break out through another mouth into sun and honey time. Worlds buzz over us like bees. We be splendid in new bones. Other people think they know how long life is, how strong life is. We know.
My question for the space is, what do new bones look like for you? Oh, please take some time to reflect. You want to repeat the question or the poem? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
You can totally do that.
So I'll read it another time, and I'll try as we reflect. I'll do it another time too. So we will wear new bones again. We will leave these rainy days, break out through another mouth into sun and honey time. Worlds buzz over us like bees. We be splendid in new bones. Other people think they know how long life is, how strong life is. We know. So again, as you're reflecting, feel free to do it out loud if you need to. For those who need to, maybe you just need to sit with in silence with it, whatever mode of reflection you need.
And the question again is, what do new bones look like for you?
I'll read it one more time. We will wear new bones again. We will leave these rainy days, break out through another mouth into sun and honey time. Worlds buzz over us like bees. We be splendid in new bones. Other people think they know how long life is, how strong life is. We know.
The floor is open for reflections that you'd like to share in the space.
I'll go. I think immediately hearing this, I have a lot of problems in my bones actually, and in my joints and pain. And so the question is actually painful for me. And how that sits in my body is a lot of pain, thinking about new bones, the possibility of like life without pain is a tender place for me. So yeah, it's a painful question, honestly.
Let's pause right there to sit with that, to hold it with Robert. Anyone else have any other reflections they want to share?
Yeah.
And then.
Sorry, I was just
Oh, yeah. I'll get to you in one second. I might get this person first.
Thank you for the meditation opportunity. I was drawn immediately to Ezekiel 37, life in abundance, where the dry bones come back.
I appreciate this opportunity to express in a different way. It's more how my brain works. I think a lot of my experience has been like, don't talk about bones, don't talk about body, don't talk about grief, don't talk about your mouth, don't talk so much. When I heard honey time, I thought about a world where that wasn't so much the case, and then there are these spaces sometimes when we come to conferences like this where you get a little taste of an interdependent kind of community. It feels like honey.
I was thinking of Winnie the Pooh of it all. Yeah, it does feel like honey. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh, hey, it's a theology. Any other thoughts? I loved that. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you. Alexis Padilla, my name for those in the Zoom. Newborns for me um, create this image of the communal. And I noticed that the poem keeps talking of the we, not of the I. So there is a present kind of futuristic thing that is communal. And I can see how these bonds that are new are probably next to me. They don't have to be young to be new. They are new because they are communal. And in that communality, we get strength, we get renewal, even of our own sense of pain, which becoming collective has a different flavor, if that makes any sense. Thank you.
Hi, this is Maggie Sheets. I just wanted to say when they were saying new bones and it being splendid, it made me think a lot about hope. Like, yes, things were really not good initially, but there's something splendid about hope. There's something that's nice that keeps me going. And it made me think about that.
Let's go reflections.
I have a question for some of y'all, just to reflect on the exercise a little bit. Do you find yourself naturally leaning to one of these more, or challenging yourself to embrace another pathway of knowledge in this space? So if you want to engage that'd be cool too.
Can you read it again too for those?
Oh, absolutely. So we have vibes and vibrations, images, thoughts, meaning making, behaviors and urges, affect, feelings, sensations, and imagination. I know for me, I think vibes are a major way that I know and I remember and learn. And I think about how also vibes have facilitated communal and community survival for the oppressed. Like when you enter a space and you connect with someone and you look at each other and you're like, is this safe here? You know, you look for that familiarity, and that's a very important way of knowing for me. And then imagination is another big one. I think imagination connects a lot with this poem in particular. Yeah. All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, this is the most important one. We have two left. And so this one is Won't You Celebrate With Me, Lucille Clifton. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, who did I see to be except myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight, my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Ooh. I'll read it again. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. Who did I see to be except myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed.
I'm gonna let y'all sit with that before I ask the question. in this poem, there's so much here that hints at the grief in the background, the thing that was survived, the forces that wish to snuff out life and flourishing are still in the shadows of this poem, even as the invitation to celebration is offered. And with the holding that we are doing in this space with our bodies and reflecting and thinking and carrying on those shadowy realities with us, I ask you, what does your celebration look like? What does your celebration look like? And what is the invitation, if you were to say, to shape an invitation, kind of like a party invite? What would it say? What images are on the invitation? What music is playing? What does that celebration look like? And how does the invitation look like for those around you who love you to celebrate with you? The space is open to begin to share a vision of your celebration with us. What does your celebration look like?
I'll just share again to open up the floor why poem's important to me. Black, chronically ill, and disabled man. This is so meaningful to me, specifically one racked with PTSD and depression. The something that has tried to, that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Whew, that's a sermon. That's a lecture. And so I think I can never move past how rich those words are. People who know, whether it's forces from without or within trying to kill you, as a Black man, as a disabled man, and has failed. Yeah, I don't even have a, yeah, that's.
Thank you.
And has failed. Anyone else? Thoughts, reflections? Yes, come on. I see that.
Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful workshop. I was thinking, Rose, about your invitation to like try to inhabit one of these that isn't as familiar. So, and actually a gesture came to mind when I was hearing this poem of like open hands. I have a beautiful sculpture that I found at an antique store that's like two open hands with the palms facing up, coming together like as if they were going to receive water almost. And I think of that gesture for some reason as coming to mind when I think about celebration as reception. That's very vulnerable.
Yes.
Like it leaves your palms open to harm.
Can we just sit with that for a second? Yes. Thank you.
And the other thing that it leaves your hands open to is grace. Like for me, that's the posture that I think about when I think of grace. Yeah, so that's coming to mind.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for these poems. My name is Eamon. Yeah, so often when I do this kind of somatic work, I just feel tired. I just get this wave of fatigue. And but your question really, made me think the joy and movement and moving through that, and in spite of that. So thank you. Yeah.
My name's Melissa. There was so much in this poem. I kept thinking about the hands, the one hand holding tight to the other hand, holding your own hand. Whoa, I'm really there and not in the celebration. I feel like that precedes the celebration. Like you can't, but I love that she's inviting other people to celebrate what she's done, what she's been able to shape into a life. And this starshine, between starshine and clay, and the hands that are shaping that life out of a mess that's just out of the dirt. That just resonates so much. And that to be able to have that self-love, the strength to be able to shape that life and make something beautiful out of the mess, and then to invite someone else who may not have been through all of that to be able to benefit from it is just a real kind of grace. And anyway, that's it.
One of my friends sent me this card, and it said on the front, "It's okay if all you did today was survive." And I think about what that means for so many of us in the space where our bodies hold the anxiety, the disappointment we often feel with ourselves when we don't accomplish everything we set out to do for the day. But if all you did was survive, Lucille Clifton is saying that is enough to invite celebration and to celebrate existence and being. Thank you so much for those reflections.
So want to do a benediction now, and I'm going to have Rose read this because it's one of her favorite poems. It's called Blessing the Boats. So just take a deep breath, everyone. Continue reflecting on previous poems if you need to. Yeah, lead us out with this poem.
Yes. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you in your innocence sail through this to that. Ashe. All right. For me, when I read this, I feel like I want to be a boat, you know, like I want to float. I want to like feel like I'm expanding onto a new horizon. So whatever it means for you in your body to do that with me, let's do that together. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you in your innocence sail through this to that. Ashe. Thank you.
So we have about, there we go. So we have about 10 minutes for you to finish your reflections if you'd like to stay in this space. We will meet back together in 1:13 for our closing liturgy, but feel free to remain here for a moment to process and finish, and we'll keep it nice and quiet. Yes, and our artist Rebekah is here. I know she's put up a written artist statement, but if you'd like to speak to her about her work, I know that she would be happy to. Or Rebekah, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a couple words right now, just so we can collectively hear them.
Yeah, let me just pull up my artist statement here. Mhm. Yeah, so my name is Rebekah Schultz. I'm an MTS student at Duke Divinity School studying theology and the arts. And so these like blue and tan toned images around the room are images focusing on the hands of various people using mobility aids, such as a crutch, a white cane, a wheelchair, headphones, Braille, or ASL. And I called it the hands of God because I wanted to focus on God as using accommodations. And I see it as offering a dual reading. First, I want to reflect on Nancy Easland's description of God as disabled. Just as Jesus was raised with scars and bears these marks of his lived experience, what would it look like for Jesus to interact with the world through mobility aids? What if Jesus needed a crutch or a wheelchair to get around after the nails dug through his feet? What if the darkness of the sky of the crucifixion corresponded to a loss of vision for Jesus? Or the shattering earthquake to a loss of hearing? What if Jesus needed to communicate in different ways after the crucifixion? What if we saw disability as holy? By focusing on the hands of God, using mobility aids, or alternative forms of communication, I reflected on the ways that God has already used accommodations to speak to us. Through angels, pillars of fire, signs and wonders, the prophets, dreams and visions, the stories and text of scripture, and most significantly, through the accommodation of taking on flesh in the incarnation. A second parallel reading is that of present-day disabled people bearing the presence of God. This draws heavily on the Imago Dei, and one of the quotes included on the images is from Amy Kenny, and she writes, "I bear the image of the Alpha and Omega. My disabled body is a temple of the Holy Spirit." In this artwork, then, I wanted to reflect on mobility aids, accommodations, and disability culture as positive and beautiful aspects of the image of God and God's good creation of disabled people. In this way, I hope that anyone who views this art will also recognize the image of God in themselves and in the disabled people around them. I designed the images in a light tan and dark blue color block style to give contrast and simplicity to the pieces. The image making is a slow and meditative process, which gives me space to reflect on the medium and the subject of the art as I create. Additionally, the minimal use of color and lack of facial representation leaves room for ambiguity of race and gender, an ambiguity which I embrace here as creating space to see God in every disabled body. These designs embody my hope to take seriously an emphasis on community and interdependence alongside prayers of protest and hope. I want to acknowledge the pain of ableism faced by everyone to whom the church has been inaccessible, the sacraments denied, their experience used as a negative metaphor, and their body and faith questioned. I want to work towards justice and accessibility, creating spaces where everyone is welcomed and recognized as good, sacred, and holy in the fullness of their identities. This art is a reflection on those hopes and strivings, and it is a reminder that there is still much work to do. I also have a prayer up on the wall that I think I would like to read out right now. God with scars, we come before you with scars of our own, made in your image and likeness, making image and likeness of you. As we work in wood and stone and clay, in paint and ink and pixel, with brush and knife and computer type, let us remember that we create because you have created us. God, who made us creative in our ways of making and in our way making, bless our artistry and our adaptability. In the sacrament of artistic response, we reflect on your world and who you are, and who we are in light of you, offering our whole selves in the fullness of our experiences. As we reflect on our own embodied experience, on your own embodied experience, of hunger, thirst, and exhaustion, of pain, sickness, and anger, of blood, sweat, and tears, let us remember that you are with us here. Disabled God who accommodates us and makes your presence accessible, let us reflect you in our art, making your presence known in sight and sound and touch. Let us make works that embody your image in new ways, reminding us of the wonder of your disabled dignity and the centrality of your wounds to your identity and love. Let our imaginations bear fruit as we are in awe of your mystery and the creativity with which you approach the world. Let us represent you with truth and beauty in our images, metaphors, abstractions, and stories. Let us learn from those who have gone before as we build our communities in hope and put into action the ideals we hold. Let us honor their legacies by carrying on their work of justice, action, and imagination, dreaming of the world we are creating together. Thanks. There's also image descriptions on the prayer on the wall as well. So feel free to take a look. Thanks.